Greetings all, and welcome to another episode of Ifarounke's Wisdom. As I begin this week's coloring, you will notice something unusual. A faint yellow mark already present on the page. That wasn't intentional. I had forgotten to place the buffer sheet beneath the last drawing, the one from the previous episode where we explored doubt. Yellow was the first color I used in that session, and I used quite a lot of it before realizing the buffer was missing. Thankfully, it was yellow, bright, light, forgiving, and I caught it in time. But the mark was already made. And it struck me how perfectly this mirrors the phrase we are reflecting on today. My authentic self is adversely altered by both my fabricated foundation and my present tense dabbling with anything that is untrue. The foundation of this artwork, this sacred space of reflection, was quietly altered by a previous act. The energy of doubt from a past moment had seeped through. What we do not contain, what we do not guard, seeps quietly into the next moment. But here's the gift. I did not throw the page away. I did not start over. I allowed what had seeped through to become part of the art. And sometimes starting over is not the point. Sometimes it is not even possible. Sometimes the work is to continue, but with awareness, with humility, with intention. The truth is, what seeped through wasn't random. It was a direct result of a momentary lapse in presence, a missed step, an omission. But this is the grace of the universe. It doesn't just nudge us gently onto a new path. It exposes what we need to see so we can no longer ignore it. It forces us to stop, to look, and to own the impact of unconscious choices. And because we are willing to see it, to face it, and to work with it, it becomes part of the divine unfolding. Not because it was perfect, but because we chose to meet it with integrity. The message isn't that everything is meant to be, but that we should not gloss over how things are. When we meet the moment fully, we reclaim the power to choose consciously, not from shame, but from wisdom. That is how the universe teaches. Not by force, but by reflection. In humility, we realize we are not above life. We are in the classroom of it. With accountability, we do not bypass what happened. We meet it with honesty. When we have compassion, we do not respond from shame. We respond from awareness. And with empowerment, we reclaim our choice, our authorship, our rhythm. And this to me is the quiet power of presence. Not to escape the past, but to walk forward with wisdom. And that is what transforms omission into offering, misstep into message, and the seepage into sacred design. And that is the invitation for all of us, to notice what is being carried over, knowingly or not, to acknowledge it, and then choose to integrate it consciously, truthfully, lovingly. Because in the end, what was there, however unintended, can be transformed. And that is exactly what happens in our lives when we let truth and awareness guide the way. This phrase asks us to take a bold and honest look at the ground we are standing on. A fabricated foundation may not seem harmful at first. It might be a belief we were taught, a role we learned to play, or a version of ourselves that helped us survive. But when we build our present upon these illusions, when we stand on what was never ours to begin with, we lose alignment with our authentic self. What does it mean to have a fabricated foundation? It is when our identity is stitched together from expectations, from culture, from coping, instead of from truth. It is when we say, I am fine, while breaking inside. When we call something normal just because it's familiar. When we claim beliefs we have never examined, or live by rules that no longer apply. But that is only half the story. The phrase also speaks of our present tense dabbling with anything untrue. That means, what are we entertaining today? What compromises are we making in the now that dilute our truth? It may be small, a silence where a truth should have been spoken, a smile we wear to keep the peace, a self-betrayal we justify with just this once. Every time we dabble, even slightly, with what is untrue, we distort the signal we are sending out. And when the signal is distorted, the response from the universe, from others, from our own spirit is misaligned. We start attracting relationships, opportunities, and even insights that reflect our false self rather than our real one. And here's the key. When our foundation is off, and when we tolerate untruth in the now, we begin to live as the distortion. That's what adversely altered means here. The authentic self becomes layered over with illusion. Not because it's lost, but because it is buried. The good news? We do not have to start from scratch. We just have to get honest about where we are standing and what we are dabbling in. Truth is a tuning fork. When you touch it, even gently, everything begins to vibrate back into alignment. So today's invitation is simple but powerful. Check your foundation. Notice what you are tolerating in your present. And ask yourself, what version of me do I want to stand on? What truth do I want to build from? We are not here to be perfect. We are here to be authentic. And authenticity, when rooted in truth, brings peace. Not always comfort, but peace. And from peace comes power. Seepage is not dramatic. That is what makes it dangerous. You might not notice it until something doesn't feel quite right, until the colors of your present are not fully your own. So let us take a moment to let that settle. And here's something to reflect on as you go about your day. What parts of me are showing up today that were shaped by something untrue? And am I ready to choose differently? Here's an affirmation to hold as you realign with truth. I stand on a foundation of truth. What no longer serves me is seen, honored, and released. I choose to show up as my whole self. Thank you for being here, for showing up, and for being willing to reflect with me. If this episode stirred something in you, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe. Not just for growth, but so that more of us can rise in alignment together. Until next time, may truth be your compass, may peace be your ground, and may your authentic self shine through, untangled and free. With love and deep reverence, this is Ifarounke's wisdom, reflecting on divinity.